So today we're talking about the 1984 sci-fi space film The Last Starfighter. But to appease our audience, we have to somehow connect it to Star Trek. So, you know how they say 6 degrees to Kevin Bacon? Well, let's go 6 degrees to Star Trek. So, this movie was directed by Nick Castle. Nick Castle was in Halloween. Michael Myers' mask is William Shatner. And William Shatner
Was in Over the Hedge with Steve Carell. And Steve Carell was in Crazy Stupid Love with Kevin Bacon. We did it.
One night, a mysterious stranger offers Alex an opportunity he never dreamed of.
Who are you?
I'm Centauri, and you may... No, you must trust me implicitly.
The Last Starfighter. His adventure in space is about to begin.
So kayfabe, we already talked about this movie, but we lost the footage.
Yeah, we had an unfortunate drive corruption that caused us to lose this discussion video as well as our most recent fan mail video, so we're going to be re-recording that one as well. Luckily, we didn't lose any Star Trek videos. That's what everyone cares about. But we do have to re-record this one. So it's been quite a few weeks since we've watched The Last Starfighter. Let's first just start off, though. You already brought it up. Nick Castle being the director is just, like, wild.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it popped up on the screen. I'm like, no, that can't be that Nick Castle. But no, yeah, it's that Nick Castle, which I think you look up, he's directed, like, multiple things.
Yeah, he was the director of Major Pain, which is like a 90s comedy with Damon Wayans, which is pretty funny. So yeah, he's directed just like random stuff.
Just like random Hollywood guy, you know what I mean? Like, definitely most well known because of like just being the body guy for Halloween, but like doing all this other stuff that no one ever talks about. Like, I would have never, ever in a million years knew about this movie or the fact that he directed it if it wasn't for Patreon. So thanks, kind of cool. Because in the back of my mind, Nick Castle's just a guy who walks around Hollywood until they need him to stand in for Michael Myers, just because hey, he's standing in as Michael Myers again. So kudos to him.
Yeah, and it's funny because that kind of sums up how I feel about this movie in general, where it's like I had never heard about it before, and after watching it, I was like, oh wow, that was really neat.
Louis, you're having a terrible nightmare. Go back to sleep.
Yeah, it was great. It was fun. It was just like a fun little sci-fi movie. I was watching a little bit behind the scenes. Like, they were aware of the comparisons to Star Wars, so that's why they were really proud of the scenes with the beta unit. Like, oh, this will set us apart. Like, this is our own thing. Like, yeah, it's similar to Star Wars, but we do have our own fun stuff in there, which I think is true. And it's an hour and 40 minutes, and it's a blast. And it just feels like a movie, not a detriment to the writers, but it feels like the whole thing is from the perspective of a 12-year-old kid, you know, who's like, oh, I'm stuck in this trailer park, but I have this hot girlfriend, but I'm gonna make it into space one day, and then like the opportunity comes around. No, I can't do that, but I gotta save the. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like a fantasy of a 12-year-old.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and it is a movie that, you know, as a adult in their 20s I did enjoy, but I think as a kid this would have been like my favorite movie if I
Oh.
had, even though it was like an 80s movie, if I had watched it, you know, in the early 2000s when I was still a kid, I would have really loved it. The budget is not very high. I think it was like $15 million, which even adjusted for inflation wouldn't be like a super high budget for a movie.
hmm
And it's one of the very first movies to use CGI. So because of that, the CGI does not look good.
No, and boy, did they heavily use it sometimes too. They were like, if we're gonna use this, we're going all in. Which is interesting because there's also like big practical sets, big practical hallways, but then it'll cut to this exterior with this, you know, Windows 95, you know,
Polygon.
polygon, you know,
Yeah.
space station. Like, oh God, well, at least they tried.
Yeah, and that's what is kind of the saving grace, is that they are one of the first movies to try this CGI, and I'm sure for its time it was cutting edge, but they probably knew like, hey, this doesn't look great. So it is really nice that they didn't have a lack of effort on the practical side. It was still very practical with its sets, with its costuming, its makeup, alien design, as well as just nice practical tricks like with Beta, the scene where his head comes off, and you know, just all that kind of stuff. that's what made the movie so great to me, is it was just like a fun practical movie. And yeah, current day the space battle stuff isn't going to hold up because of the aging of the effects, but I can kind of let that slide a little bit because the movie's so strong in the other practical areas.
And even those quick 4-second shots, like when the Betazoid unit is first dispatched per se, and it's underneath the covers. It's like, oh god, it was only like for 4 seconds, but it's like, I appreciate that, just that little shot of that disgusting face morphing.
Yeah, there was a lot of alien creatures that we only see for like one scene or a couple of seconds that look really good, but then you have Grig, who's one of the side characters who was Cochran in Halloween 3.
Yes, probably a veteran actor, just forced to put on this like super intricate and very well designed and impressive mask and play a completely different character. And like, it's what I love about actors, man. It's like sometimes I would have, if you would have said, oh yeah, Connell Cochran played that guy, I'm like, I would have told you you're fucking crazy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Am I to understand you're actually declining the honor of becoming a starfighter?
You got it.
Extraordinary.
And I thought everyone, cast-wise did a pretty good job. I mean, the standout is probably Lance Guest as the star of the movie. He gets to play both Alex and Beta, so he has these two different roles. He does a pretty good job. I don't know Lance Guest from really anything else, so I don't know what he ended up doing career-wise, but I thought he was pretty good in this. And everyone, like, no one is, like, over-the-top amazing performance, but that's not what the movie needs.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, like, a fun... I don't want to say fun, dumb movie, because it's not dumb, but it's just, like, a fun ride that you don't need it to be a 5-star Oscar-winning movie. And people always complain today, like, oh, all these big, dumb action movies, superhero movies. But, like, this is proof that even back then, those were still being made. And it's proof that there's a place for them. Like, there's a place to have movies that are just a great time. And, yeah, it's focused a little bit towards kids. But this movie had some brutal stuff in it. It had a little bit of language. Like, it can definitely be for older audiences as well.
It's fine for just a space adventure movie to happen where like the theme or whatever about whatever's wrong with the world isn't like shoved in your face per se. I guess maybe you can say something. There's a little bit of almost a Starship Troopers commentary type where it's like glorifying being drafted to a war, maybe? Like if there's a theme there, I don't know, possibly, but for the most part, it's just like I said, it's a movie written from the perspective of a 12-year-old kid who like thinks he's badass. But I do want to talk about Robert Preston Centauri.
We have to talk about a matter of utmost importance. Step into my office.
This was his last feature film. He was known for something called Music Man or something.
Oh, okay.
But like, I love his whole, instead of like the old wise man Obi-Wan Kenobi type character, he's like he's almost like a sleazy car salesman, like trying to like quick sell you on something. Or like an auctioneer where it's like, blah, 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 it's like, oh yeah, it's so great, oh you're gonna love it here, blah blah blah, yeah, you're the best, we need you. And his whole, most people on their deathbed, it's like, you did it, you saved everyone. Oh yeah, it's like, you got the money, Centauri, you did it. You know what I mean? It's like, just what a great final performance.
Did it ever occur to you that it's against the law to recruit from worlds outside the Star League?
Earth's in danger too, isn't it?
So the movie starts off and we meet Alex in this trailer park in California, and even though his life isn't that terrible, like his family loves him, he has a girlfriend, everything seems to be all right for him, but he just wants to get out of this town. It's one of those classic, I'm gonna get out of this town, make something of myself.
On the radio, when they're doing like the pan of the trailer park.
County, where once again state police have refused to confirm or deny more of those mysterious lights in the sky sightings by local residents.
Like, oh, still some mysterious light sightings up in the sky. So it's like, oh, I love those little hints. It's always on the radio, always. He's like this in his bedroom, and he's looking up at his like space display, kind of like
Panorama.
Yeah, yeah. And he's mouthing something, and he's mouthing what his neighbors are saying to each other, as if they have the same conversation all the time.
Was pleasant going fishing today. Yep, gonna be pleasant tomorrow too.
Like he hears his neighbors outside his trailer park saying the same thing to each other all the time. So he's literally mouthing it as they're saying it. I'm like, oh, that's a nice scene.
Wow, that is cool.
Yeah,
that
so it's
cool.
like these people just have the same conversation every single day.
And that goes into why he wants to get out of this.
Exactly,
so
yeah.
bad.
So
he has this arcade game, Starfighter, in his trailer park that he gets the high score on, and everyone's like rah-rahing around him as he does it. And that prompts Centurion to show up because it was actually him who placed the Last Starfighter arcade game there. He makes a comment that it was like supposed to go to Vegas, but there was a mistake and it ended up there. And I really appreciated how quick, not only the whole pace of the movie, but how quick it got into it. And I also respected how a lot of movies, once he gets picked up here in this first act, you know, the inciting incident of him being basically abducted by Centurion, in a lot of movies you would never return to Earth again. You're just with Alex the whole time. But no, they leave behind that beta unit and they regularly go back and see the beta unit interacting with his brother, with his girlfriend, and you still get to know those characters. So later on, when Alex returns to Earth, it's a little bit more impactful, and we'll get there, but I really liked that too.
Beta unit's trying to like cheer up his girlfriend, and he's listening in another conversation.
You're my Juliet, my Venus.
You're my Juliet, my Venus.
Alex?
Oh, you're my stars, you're my universe, my everything. She's like, oh, what, really? And like listens in.
All the other girls meant nothing to me.
The other girls meant nothing to me. It was you.
Yeah, that was great.
Oh, it's like that's what like separates it, makes it great. You know what I mean? Like the space battle stuff, whatever. Like no, this just Lance Guest, you know, having two different performances, which I think as an actor is, you know, like a challenge and a dream to be able to play two different characters in the same thing. Like how fun is that?
Yeah.
But yeah, those little fun scenes where it's like back on Earth, I think are my favorite. You know, the space battle stuff, whatever. No, it's like the beta unit just trying to be a human.
Yeah. Once he gets into space and finds out that he's being recruited as a starfighter, we also meet the villain of the movie, Xur.
He's basically the leader of, not the Resistance, but leader of the Rylos people. This other species that also has cool makeup. And we get to have fun scenes with them on that ship. But yeah, that's our villain, where he comes in with his head. And what he does that transmission where it's kind of like a Zoom call or whatever, and he's just like, was he just gonna stay there?
Yeah, he invades this ship.
Yeah.
And then he decides to just hang up. It's like, what if he hadn't, and if he was just, his head was just sitting there?
Yeah, what if he's peeking around? So what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
You have any plans I can, peek on?
They're like, hey, can you leave now? You've said your evil plan. We got to get back to work. I also really liked the Kodans that were with Xur. They were really, again, another good practical design, and I liked how they don't like Xur as a leader. They're like, why do we got to listen to this guy? And there's like that slow tension throughout the movie.
Nothing to stop us now. Ahead full. To right.
It doesn't amount to like much. Like eventually Xur escapes them, and when things start going south. But it was just a nice little piece to have in there. Like it's not just stormtroopers. Like they had their own personality.
Yeah, I love that possible. They're not all with Xur, and possible sequel building because Xur does escape at the end. Like, I don't think there was a sequel as far as I know.
No.
But besides like one scene in the first Star Wars, in A New Hope, where Vader chokes the one dude. Like, there's never really any conflict on the enemy side. It's like, oh, it's just this horrible force coming after him. So I do like that, it's like, oh, there's tension on that side, too.
So then Alex decides he doesn't want to be a starfighter, and he wants to go back home. Alex is getting hunted down by what's called a Zandozan, which is basically like a bounty hunter. I think they call it a beast hunter or something like that.
Yeah.
He's forced to go back and be a last starfighter because after they kill the Zandozan, like, yeah, you can stay here, but like either you're going to get killed by one of these or eventually Xur will just make his way to Earth and destroy the whole thing. And I liked that. I liked that it wasn't, oh, no, take me back home, but then wait, I have a change of heart. Like, I liked that it was, no, you're forced back in. It was a little bit more realistic, I thought.
Yeah, more like the realism of like, oh, well, you don't join the war, then, Germany or so ever will just take over. It's like, oh, I gotta go now.
Shit. Come on, Alex, don't be such a wimp.
Warmness and lightheartedness of Lance Guest's second performance as the beta unit. It just adds so much more fun. And like for an hour and 40 minutes, like the whole that helps everything fly by much faster. And it's so much fun. And then finding out like when Alex does come home, it's like, oh hey, and like says hello to his girlfriend. Girlfriend slaps him because Beta made some comments about like, oh, your sexual, advances. It's like, my what? And then he finds out, and Lance Guest gets to have a scene with himself, and his poor little brother just sees this happen. It's like, you're having a bad dream.
Yeah.
And then later on, when he like takes his head off and fixes it, it's like, you're sleeping. It's like, this kid's gonna be traumatized.
Yeah, there were a lot of fun scenes on Earth with the beta unit. of Alex and his girlfriend and his brother. That was all really fun. I think the one thing it kind of takes away from, though, because it takes up runtime doing that, is when Alex does go then back and now he has to be the last Starfighter. I think it takes away from there's not enough time left for him to really build that bond with Grig, because that's when Grig kind of steps up as like his mentor and is like, we got to go fight this battle. But the movie doesn't have much to the battle because it's relying on this CGI. So by the time they get to that, it's like they have like one scene where they're like, "Oh, this is my family. Oh, this is my family. Okay, now let's do the final battle." Like
Yeah,
that's
and they
it.
have like a short little training scene.
Yeah, he does the what's the maneuver called? The blossom or whatever,
Yeah.
which they do tease earlier in the movie, but that's all he has to do is just like hit a button.
Yeah, and that wasn't even the final thing with the ship. And I brought this up, like, he should have gotten the high score on the game, yes, but not defeated the final ship. Where, like, no one's ever defeated the final ship in the game, but he has the most points. So he can have that tension of, like, I've never even beaten the game. And it's like, and I don't know, Greg says something motivational. It's not about what you've done, it's what you can do, something. I don't know, just something where you get more tension. Because as soon as it happens instantly when he defeats the thing. And plus, we know if he beat it in the game, once he fully adjusts, then yeah, he should be able to defeat it. I know they do make that contrast where it is different and he has trouble adjusting. But I just think about that scene in Star Wars when Luke shoots the fucking thing into the hole. Just the tension in that scene and like the buildup of, it's like, oh, use the Force. And it's a perfect scene. Perfect. I get goosebumps and chills every single time that happens because it was built up perfectly. But this, it falls flat.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point about the arcade game because they even go as far as to make it known that humans aren't even ready for the Star League. And like Centurion did something he wasn't supposed to do by recruiting on Earth just because he wanted the money for getting a recruit. So him not beating the boss but getting the high score would have made sense because it's like, oh yeah, all these alien species were able to beat the game, but humans aren't even ready. So it doesn't matter you didn't beat the game. You just got the best score. Like you're just the best one I could find. That would have made a lot more sense. I think that is would have been a really good idea. At the end of the day, I'm not like gonna say it takes down the movie that much because, like we've said, I'm just like here for a good time. But yeah, the final battle and everything in space kind of falls flat. The story isn't really there for it, and the CGI is not there.
Yeah,
So
yeah, and plus, if they mention like, oh, humans aren't ready to join or whatever, but if Alex were to use some like human element to beat the final boss, so I don't know what that is. This is me just like shooting off the cuff, whatever. Like in terms of like storytelling and writing, where it's like, oh, humans aren't ready for this, but it's a human trait that beats. It's like, oh, it's just because you think of a species as less doesn't mean they don't have anything to offer. In fact, they might be the answer. I feel like that's, good storytelling. You
yeah,
know what I mean? It's like, oh, we were wrong to not think of you as ready or judge humans that harshly. But
yeah,
it doesn't really go that deep. It's like, oh,
it's not that deep of a movie.
it's not that
Yeah.
deep of a movie. Like, as much as I want that, it's like, oh, no, we beat him. It's fine.
So then after they defeat them is when Alex returns back to Earth to try to also get his girlfriend to come with him, who is reluctant at first but eventually does go with him. And we also get to see that Centurion is not actually dead. And I love that moment. Usually I get so mad and annoyed when movies do like a fake death to give the character motivation. Like if you're gonna kill someone to motivate the main character, at least have them actually be dead. But then no, they're alive. Like I usually hate that. But because this movie's just so fun and like kind of silly, I actually love the reveal. Plus we didn't mention about it, Centurion's whole face where he's an alien underneath and then he like takes off his face. We see it earlier in the movie. So here he shows up as an alien. So we don't know at first, but then he puts on his face and it's Robert Preston.
Yeah. The perfect double face reveal. It's fantastic. When we find out that he's Cad Bane, it's just great.
Greetings, Starfighter. You have been recruited by the Star League.
So I don't say this a lot. I think it's not a lot of movies that fit into this category, but I think that The Last Starfighter deserves a remake. Deserves to be remade in modern day because what's the biggest flaw with the movie? The special effects, the CGI.
Yeah.
Obviously, CGI has progressed so far in the last 40 years, and the challenge, like with most remakes, would be to capture that magic, right? From the writing to the casting of the characters and all of that. If they could capture that, but just add on modern CGI and special effects, I think this could be a really good modern blockbuster. Again, not remake it into an Oscar-winning movie, but just a fun blockbuster, because nowadays, like, even blockbusters are having trouble being fun. Like, when's the last one you saw that wasn't like a 3-hour drag and was actually a good time? You know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to think, and it's hard to even think of one. Like, Ready Player One might be the last one to come to mind, where it's like, yeah, this isn't like a great movie, but it's just like a big blockbuster, and the special effects are cool.
Yeah, popcorn movie. Yeah, where it's like, yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I can definitely see this being remade. It's going to star Timothy Chalamet. He's going to live in a trailer park. He's going to be playing Fortnite. And then, you know what? They're going to bring him out of the woodwork. We brought him up recently. Malcolm McDowell will be Centurion. He'll come down. Yeah, yeah. Who else? Who's going to be Greg? Dean Norris will be Greg. Because why not give him a job?
Yeah, I think this would be the plot of the remake. You have whoever Timothy Chalamet, the main character, right? He gets recruited, but I think it would be, instead of Greg, Alex, Lance Guest, returning as the mentor character. And then I think they should kill Zur, because he escapes at the end of the first movie, but don't have him be the main villain, because he wasn't like that interesting, and you don't even really need to have like the same actor or whatever. Just have Zur get killed by Lance Guest, like Alex finally tracks down and kills Zur. But then the actual villain of the movie is Lewis, Alex's younger brother, who in the first movie tries to play the Last Starfighter but can't win, can't beat it. So now he gets mad and jealous. You know, his older brother just left with aliens and was gone.
You left me behind. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
So then he somehow finally gets, you know, part of the Star League, but becomes a villain, and now have the Timothy Chalamet new character team up with mentor Alex to take on Alex's brother of Lewis. I think that would be a great remake plot.
Who plays Lewis?
I don't know if it would have to be the same actor. I don't know who that actor was, but
Casey Affleck.
Alex, it's me.
You left me behind. Why did you leave me behind?
I mean, they would have to be. I mean, if you're going to set it in modern day, it would be 40 years, right? So even Lewis would have to be kind of older.
I don't know.
Ben Affleck.
Have Ben Affleck play Alex. Sorry, just recast Lance Guest. Just have Ben Affleck play him so Casey Affleck can play Lewis.
Well, I don't know, because Lance Guest would have to be even old. I mean, how old is Lance Guest? He's 63. So,
Okay.
said he's still alive, thankfully. So
Yeah, good for him.
So I would love, ideally, to bring him back, just to
Yeah.
have that connection to the original. You know, have one line about something that happened to his girlfriend, so she's not in the movie. You know, or maybe she died too. I don't know. But yeah, I wouldn't say it a lot. I'm not necessarily in the full camp of people who are like, oh, all remakes are bad. I think there are some good ones. Like, I think obviously like the Planet of the Apes trilogy was really good. I think you could have good remakes or requels, and I think The Last Starfighter definitely deserves one.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of just pure on remakes. I do like the requel style. Like, yeah, we're using this property, but we're telling a newer story. Like the Planet of the Apes. Like, that's the perfect example. Like, yes, we're using we're using that IP to make a great trilogy.
Yeah, if any movie is just a straight up remake anymore, it's like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? It's like everyone does requel. Like, I think Hollywood is caught on to like, oh, they don't want us to do the same exact thing. They want us to either same continuity and bring back that original actor to be like the mentor, or use the IP to make a new story with it. People doing like exact remakes, I can't think of the last one that was done, but
Mean Girls, was that an exact remake?
it was a musical, so it's like kind of a different format.
Oh, was it? Okay. I mean,
Yeah.
one of my favorite movies, The Thing, is a remake, but it's not really a remake because The Thing from Another World and The Thing are like two completely.
It's like an adaptation.
Yeah, an adaptation, like using an IP and making your own thing out of it.
These are our patron takes. Patron takes are now coming to audience cut, so our patrons can let us know what they think of the movie as well as our reaction, because the patron takes are posted after our full uncut reaction, which you can watch over on Patreon as well. Steven says, saw this in the theaters when this came out thinking, I hope this computer-generated stuff isn't the way of the future. I guess we had to start somewhere.
Yeah, I don't know. Just 9 years later, Jurassic Park came out, so it is the way of the future, unfortunately. I mean, I feel like it's taken a downgrade as of recent, but
but a lot of movies also look incredible.
Yes,
So there's good and bad.
That's true. They can CGI a gun. Oh, I wanted to bring this up. John says, when I was a kid, I thought, quote, what do we do? Quote, we die. Was the coolest death scene ever. I might still. The people that Zur's with.
Mhm.
Like after Zur
The
escapes.
Kodan?
Yeah, the Kodan. The two people, it's like, what do we do? We die. And then like the ship crashes into the moon or whatever. I'm like, that was badass. I forgot to bring that up. Yeah, good point.
Well, now with that out of the way, the next movie on Audience Cut will be Alex's pick.
Yes, and my pick is the 1990 Paul Verhoeven film, Total Recall. I've seen it. Josh never has, so I'm very excited to see what he thinks about it.
Yes, and because we had to re-record this video, we have already watched Total Recall. And I am very excited to talk about it. So stay tuned for that discussion. And if you want to catch up and refresh your memory on Total Recall, or if you've never seen it before and you want to watch it, you can watch it along with us right now on Patreon with our full uncut reaction. You do need to sync it up to your own copy and watch along with us, so that way you can be prepared for our discussion on Audience Cut, which will be coming soon.